Hey, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Wonderful, rainy, cold day here in the desert. Um, been enjoying this cold rain all day long. My typical beach boy fashion. I've been running around in my shorts, and so I'm trying to do this on Instagram at the same time, and I'm not having good luck with it. It seems to have ended, I guess. I don't know. Well, I'm gonna get it on Facebook anyways. Um, So, anyways, back to the day. Beautiful day. Rainy mountains are covered with snow around the Coachella Valley. I mean, really low. I heard that it is snowing in Riverside and possibly even in Palm Springs. I heard. So, it was a beautiful day. I enjoyed the rain, cold rain. So I'm just gonna wait for a few people to jump on. It's been a while since I've been live, so I'm kind of gonna get my bearings in here. Um, See, I can get this screen full size on my end. So, hey Frank, how you doing? Long time no see. Long time no talk. Um, I'm gonna wait a couple of minutes, see if anybody else jumps on. I'm trying to find a good time. I was doing these in the morning. Actually, I was doing them at 11 o'clock. When I was doing that year on my book. And hello, Cynthia. Glad you joined me. Wait for a few more. See who else jumps on. So I'm trying to do this in the evening. I haven't gone live for a while, but I'm in the middle of doing a podcast called the Importance of Fatherhood. So 4 part, maybe a 5 part series. Hey Stace, how are you? And then also in the process of having my book translated into Spanish right now. I've got somebody at the church that's working on it for me, and she has some questions every now and then. They're great questions, legitimate questions, and the way this thing came about tonight with the understanding of grooming was I have a chapter in my book. I'm going to go to it here in a minute, but it's on grooming. And she had a question about the word grooming. And it was a great question because I didn't think about it because she says, what do you mean by grooming? And when I explained it to her, she, you're welcome, Cynthia. When I explained it to her, she goes, well, in Spanish, grooming means something different. I go, yeah, probably like grooming and getting ready to go out, grooming a horse, grooming your hair. And she goes, yeah. I go, yeah, no, that's not what it is. So it's those, I guess it's those little words that she needs to find a different way to explain the meaning of it in English. So I'm glad she asked, but I ended up talking to her probably for a half hour about grooming, and it led to some other things all around the grooming part. So that's why I decided to do this. It got me pretty excited and pretty intense about the conversation because this is the stuff I have a passion for. And with what's going on in the world today, there's a lot of pedophiles in the world. There's a lot of child trafficking in the world. So it's really got me to the point to when the subject comes up, I get really passionate about it. So I hope I can convey some stuff tonight to you that might be listening, who that are listening, and to those that might be listening later on. I hope that you guys can pick up some stuff, especially if you have children. This is going to be really, really important. Children or grandchildren. It's stuff that is so obvious, but yet you would never think about it. So I wanted to go into it a little bit more out of my book and explain the process of grooming. So I'm going to go ahead and start. And if you want to, you can read a whole chapter on it. There's a whole chapter. It's actually Secrets and Silence is the chapter that this grooming section is in. And it's my book, Healing the Wounded Child Within. Healing the Wounded Child Within. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Audible, Kindle, or you can get the paperback. And there's a lot of really good stuff in here. Hey, Martin, how you doing? Good to see you. There's a lot of really good stuff in this book, whether you're a survivor or not. A lot of my wife read it, and she never saw one of my drafts. She didn't want to see one of the drafts. She didn't even know if she'd read the book. But when we got the first run of books, she couldn't put it down. And if she was sitting here with me, she would tell you that every person needs to read this book because it gives you an understanding, not only with sexual abuse, but also the emotional abuse and physical abuse. And with all the abuses, emotional is always attached to it, and spiritual is always attached to it. So it's got a lot of good information for just about anybody. It's been quoted as being one of the best books on men's on sexual abuse by a lot of people because number one, it's first person, and it's not a whole bunch of theoretical stuff. It's not a whole bunch of third person stuff. It's first person, and so it's real life, what it was like, what I went through, and it's a book of hope and healing. So if you want to read more on what the book has, I would highly suggest that you check it out. It's a good resource just to have around the house. It will help you in a lot of different ways. So anyways, on this book, or in what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a little bit right out of the book, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail. I'll tell you how I was groomed, and some things that you really got to look out for. So it's on page. If you have my book, it's on page 174. It says it is not uncommon for perpetrators to groom their victims, taking time, perhaps up to 5 years, to win their trust. In the absence of a father in a young boy's life, or it could be a young girl's life, but also with a young boy's life, a perpetrator, often an uncle, cousin, or family friend. I want you to understand that 97% of perpetrators of any kind of abuse are family friends or family. Only 7% are strangers. Will slowly interject himself into the boy's life, filling the father's role. The process may look something like this. The perpetrator will start to show up at the boy's baseball games, encouraging him as a spectator. As time goes by, the perpetrator may start to take the boy out for pizza or ice cream after the game. Because I said 97% earlier, the correct one is 93%. I was getting messed up. Because 93% of perpetrators are either a family member or family friend, the behavior doesn't raise any suspicions. Once the perpetrator has gained the trust of his innocent victim and of everyone else who is part of the boy's life, that fateful day arrives when the perpetrator makes his move. For example, the two of them may be in a tent on a camping trip far away from any other people. Therefore, when the adult starts molesting the child, the boy has nowhere to run or hide. So he just submits to the abuse. A perpetrator will often make his victim feel special by giving him extra attention and praising him for his grown-up ability to keep a secret. In reality, of course, the child is keeping the secret out of fear that he will lose the special treatment, or worse yet, that his family may be harmed. A predator will take ruthless advantage of this. So that's right out of my book. And for myself, it was very similar to that. In my case, my parents had divorced when I was 10 years old. About a year into the divorce, and I still saw my dad every other weekend. He was a great father. He taught me a lot about the outdoors and about life. And about a year into it, my father became ill, and we were told we couldn't see him no more, at least for a while, because of his illness. And there's a lot that was told to us. But at the same time, my mother met this man named Jack, and as time went on, my father wasn't around, but Jack was, and Jack Jack for the course over the course of the next year, he was like a surrogate father. He took us places. We had fun. Um, we did stuff that we never would do probably. I mean, we drove across America. We went out to dinner. He was just a funny guy, right? And so about a month after my father died, well, step back. So what he had done, what he was doing is one, he knew one thing that we didn't know, is that my father had cancer and he was going to die. There was no chance of him living much longer than a year. It's back in 1969, so there wasn't a whole lot of hope for cancer patients back then. So he had known that, and so that whole year he was grooming me because he had a game plan that he was going to pull on me. So about a month after my father died, I came home from school and he was in the house waiting for me. And instead of going out and play catch or something like that, like I thought he was going to do, he took me in the bedroom. And he set me down. He put his arm around my shoulder and he sat next to me. And he started telling me, he goes, Randy, it's going to be tough. I know how tough it's going to be on you not having a father in your life. And I know it's going to be sad. You're going to struggle with some stuff. And he says, but I'm going to be there for you, and I'll take care of you. I'll fill that role. And as he was telling me this, his hand slipped down into my crotch, and that's when the abuse began. Now, the whole thing about it, there was no harm, there was no foul play, it was nothing scary. But and as we walked out, he says, Randy, don't tell anybody. This is just our little secret. So put yourself in my shoes. I was 12 years old. My father just died. And I needed a father figure in my life. I needed a father's love in my life. And I thought, well, this is just what fathers do. And then on top of it, um, on top of it, being in a secret club made it even more special. But the whole time I knew something was wrong. I just didn't feel right. But I didn't go with it. So perpetrators groom. They very rarely will just start in on somebody, especially a stranger might, but most of them, 93%, they're gonna groom the victim. It's a father. The kid on the baseball field was probably either fatherless in the fact that he didn't have a father present in his life. An absentee father wasn't there, right? Being that dad was working all the time, trying to make a living, climbing up the corporate ladder so they could afford a nice house they had, all the food they had on the table, and all their vacations. But he wasn't there for the kid, for the son. He wasn't at the baseball games. He wasn't at the soccer games, right? And perpetrators are smart. They'll watch this stuff. They'll look at it and they'll notice. They'll pick out a kid, and that's why they're hanging out the ball field. And they'll notice that maybe the kid's just coming there all the time with their mom. I'm not coming there. Where's dad and all this? And the perpetrator might even, like, if it's an uncle or a cousin or something like that, or it could even be somebody that they know, might even be a family member, but a family friend, could start befriending the mother and realizing that dad's not around. And so as the grooming goes on, like I say in the book, they learn to trust the perpetrator. They have no reason to fear the perpetrator. None. Because he's not doing anything harmful. So the trust is there, they gain the trust, and the next thing you know, something like this happens. So we have to really pay attention to it. And it's even sadder when I was at the safe house, and there was a couple girls in there one day, and I was talking, and they were 16 years old, and both of them have some horrific stories. Um, I'm just going to kind of tell them what they were because it's sad. This is what happens, right? One was a father, and she asked me specifically. She goes, Randy, can you answer me this question? I go, I'll try. All right. And this is a father. Can you tell me why my father and mother, they were sleeping in the room right next to me? My bedroom was right next to them. Why my father would come in my room, get out of their bed, and come in my room in the middle of the night and molest me, and then go back in bed with mom, and then get us up on Sunday morning and say, "Come on, we got to go to church." And it was devastating. And I looked at her, and all I could say is, "Well, it's not God. I can tell you that right now. So don't be mad at God." But it wasn't God. And other than that, the way you're feeling right now, I understand because that's what happened to me. See, so the father, a daughter, why would a daughter think that what dad was doing was wrong? Why? Because it's dad. Well, he doesn't want to hurt me. He must be okay, right? And then her girlfriend that was sitting there was 9 years old when Grandpa said, "I'm going to show you how to take care of men." And so he was raping her, right? And then she finally broke down and told mom and was crying about Grandpa, and mom called her a liar and says if he's doing it to you, you asked for it, and called her a little slut, and then smacked her for it. So you got when it's done by a family member, you got to understand that it's even more confusing because they're being groomed in a sense for probably a long time as a parent's grooming them, a grandfather's grooming. They're perpetrators. They're going to groom, and then they'll just wait for the right opportunity to jump in, just like my stepfather did. So we've got to be, as parents, this is really important. And this series I'm doing on the fatherhood, this is really important because you got to understand that the sex trafficking out here in Coachella Valley, we are a sex trafficking hub. And I don't know how many people knew that, right? And so what happens with the sex traffickers is the same thing. They're grooming these kids. They're grooming them. They're talking to them. They're buying them things. They might be having coffee with them. It's not. They just don't grab them and throw them into the sex trafficking. I'm sure there's some out there that do that, but they're grooming them. They're getting things from another, especially the women. They're getting things from a father figure that they're not getting at home. It's a deception, right? And they're being deceived, but it doesn't matter because to them, they just want a father's love, and they don't care where they get it. And that's the sad part. They don't care where they get it. Why does the girl stay in an abusive relationship? Well, I'm going to go back to the word grooming because dad groomed them that way all their childhood. Because maybe they saw mom and dad in an abusive, toxic relationship. They saw mom being yelled and screamed at and cussed at and called names all the time. They saw mom getting slapped around. So the girls think, well, that's what I guess I have to look forward to. That's all I'm supposed to have. That's the best I'm supposed to have. And that's not true. So fathers groom children in ways that, as I'm talking about this, that are sad. So we have to start stepping up as parents, and we have to really start paying attention. If some guy's hanging around with your child, let's just go with the boys right now. If you got some you know late teenage, early 20-year-old guy hanging out with your kid, why is he hanging out with your kid? Why isn't he hanging out with older people? You know, all I'm saying is we have to be aware of this stuff. I can't. It's really hard for me to express the amount of damage that is done to children and teenagers that have been abused. And as I've worked with people over the last, especially the last year, I'm telling you, it's affecting their everyday life as an adult. They might go through life for a long time. They're doing okay. Maybe they'll be successful. Maybe they're kind of jerky once in a while. But one day, they get tired of what they're doing, and then they got to start digging. And when they start digging and something comes up, it all comes to the surface. Because what happens is these kids, these teenagers, they stuff this stuff. They repress this stuff. It's there. It doesn't go anywhere. They don't just forget about it. See, and the other trick perpetrators use, there's a couple of them. The other one is this: is that don't say nothing. I'm going to hurt your mom and your dad, or I'm going to hurt your brother, or I'm going to kill your dog, right? And I recently I'm working with a kid actually, and he was being molested by some people. And that's exactly when we were talking, exactly what they did with him. They threatened him. They threatened to hurt his mom, threatened to hurt his little brothers. So why would he say anything? He's not even going to tell mom and dad what happened. And so I think this is where, as mom and dad, it's really critical that as mom and dad, it's a must that you sit down with your children and you explain some of this stuff, as hard as it is, that you've got to tell people. You've got to tell your children that if anybody ever does anything to you and says you can't tell mom and dad or I'm going to hurt them, then you run to me and you tell me. And also, and I asked this question. It's probably in my book somewhere. It's if what you're doing to me is okay, if what this person is doing to your child or a child is okay, why can't they say anything? Why couldn't I tell my brother? Why couldn't I tell my mom? Why couldn't I tell my pastor if what was being done was okay? And these children, if you go to my website, courageoushealers.org, you'll see a link in there to say signs to look for. And those signs basically will start with what I want to say about those signs, I should say, is this: is that they're if your child was like a normal child, for whatever you want to describe as normal, but all of a sudden you see these types of changes taking place in your child's life, like taking extended showers, like wearing extremely baggy clothes in the summertime, hiding their face, not being able to look up. These are just a few of them, right? Their grades start slipping. They start using drugs or alcohol. Something's wrong. They're not just doing it because they're mad at something. They're doing it because something happened. And when I first started working with this stuff, when I would say this kind of stuff, in the back of my mind, sometimes it's like, people think I'm pretty hard about this stuff. But the reality is that I've worked with enough people now that I know what I'm saying is true. That I know what I'm saying is true. And sometimes I'll just sit back when I'm working with somebody, and I'll let things come out. I'll let them organically come out. Because that grooming that took place, when they're 5, 10, whatever, 15 years old, right? That grooming that took place is so ingrained in their head that they don't know how to say anything. They lost their voice. They're scared to death to say anything. Even as adults, I lost my voice. Every time I tried to say something about anything, it wasn't a pleasant outcome for me. So we learned it's better off just to keep our mouth shut, because that way we can stay safe. That way we're not being put down. So grooming is a serious issue. And like I say, when I was talking to my translator about this, she looked at me. She was reading. I've had no idea about this stuff, none whatsoever. I didn't know that's what grooming was. I didn't know that all this stuff took place like that. So we as a I can't. The thing is, I can't stop what's happening. We can't stop sexual abuse altogether. Right? I mean, there's the powers of darkness and evil are at the helm of this sexual abuse. But what we can do is we can help our children. We can at least start talking about it to people. I mean, it's something that we can't keep sweeping this stuff underneath the rug because the damage, you sweep it underneath the rug, right? Then what you're doing is that child's self-esteem is shot. What you're telling that child as a parent is that their word and their value is worthless. You're basically telling your child you're worthless and you're a liar and you're not worth my breath to bring this up. Well, what about the family, Randy? The family's broken. What about the child? Do you want him growing up, going to jail, doing drugs? There's statistics out there are scary. One statistic is that 82% of people in jail, um, the men in jail they're absentee fathers, and that's a true statistic. And moms, you guys, single moms, I know you do the best you can. I understand that, but you're not dad, and you never will be dad. Your job is to nurture your children. And a father's job is to love their children, teach his children how to love, how to be loved, what love is. Teach them how to use their hands. Teach them how to treat women, how to treat men, how to treat everybody, how to speak. Fathers give them their language, their character. And these children that are getting picked up by sex traffickers, if they knew that, hey, I don't need you. My dad says I'm a princess, and my dad takes really good care of me. I don't need you in my life. Get out of here. Probably less kids would be fall in the hands of sex trafficked kids. And by the way, sex trafficking isn't only women. The last statistic I heard, it was about 3 to 4 years ago, maybe longer, was that 1 in 5 boys are included in sex trafficking. So 1 in 5 boys, and it's probably up there now. So as fathers, we have to groom our children how to believe in themselves, how to love themselves, how to be strong, how not to settle for second best. I mean, Pastor Obed says it all the time. My daughter's, when she gets a boyfriend, she's going to know that, hey, man, if you don't treat me as good as my father does, my father treats me like a queen, I want nothing to do with you. Why are these kids running to the streets? Where is mom and dad in all this? And it's nothing against mom and dad because they're just trying to make ends meet. I understand that, but the family values are lost. See, I couldn't even tell my mom because when my father died, we took a week off of school, and when I went back to school, all the kids made fun of me. And when they made fun of me, I didn't know what to do. I felt like, my dad just died. Why are you calling me a liar? But I couldn't run to my mom and say anything because she didn't know how to help me. So the same thing happens when I was being abused. It's our little secret. I didn't want to lose my stuff. I didn't want to lose another father figure in my life. I just lost one. So we have to wake up as parents. Okay? Pay attention to what's going around your children. Who are your children hanging around with? What kind of language are they speaking? You know, are they is their language foul? Right? I mean, are you giving them morals and character that you could that you live by that they can live by? I mean, the way you talk in your house, can your children talk that way in church? Can your children repeat what you say? Right? And I know some parents. This might frost some noses with some parents, but that's okay because the truth needs to be told. And I'm not here to beat up parents. The reality is that you want to know what's wrong with the children today, and I say this respectfully. Mom and dad go look in the mirror because you're looking at the problem. And I know not all parents are the problem. I know that, and I understand that. So don't be flying off the handle if you're one of those good parents. But there's a lot of terrible parents out there. Some of them, you can say they're doing the best they can, but are they really? Right? Are they really? So just have your antennas up, right? Be a hyper vigilant parent right now, especially in today's times. We don't, like I say, in the Coachella Valley, this is a hub for sex trafficking, and these guys know how to, they know how to get to your kids, and they know how to make them feel important. And if they don't feel good at home, somebody else is going to make them feel good. It's going to be real easy for them to get in a car with somebody and go down to the ice cream store, but not go to the ice cream store. Right? All right. So try to have that hard talk with your children. I promise you, as hard as it might be, it's going to be worth it. So I'm hoping to start jumping back on live feeds, maybe every Monday. Try to come up with some more subjects. I felt this is really important today to talk about this. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you understand it. I hope it gives you a better understanding, and I hope you'll open up your eyes and your heart and your ears to what's going on around you and your child. Because I would hate for any of you to say, "What happened to my kid? Why didn't I see it? Why didn't I listen to what Randy said?" Don't be one of those people. I mean, I've talked to a lot of parents who go, "Why didn't I see it? Why didn't I see it?" I don't know. Was it right underneath your nose and you just didn't want to see it? That's a possibility. But at the moment, a parent crying out like that, I would never say that to them. Never. So that's all I got for tonight. Keep it short and sweet. And remember, if nobody tells you that they love you today, Randy does. You guys have a great week. Hopefully it'll, well, I don't know. I'd like to see it rain another day myself, personally, but we'll see. I know the mountains are going to have a lot of snow on them, so if everything goes right, Wednesday morning, I'll get up and take my dogs up running in the mountains in the snow. So, all right, guys. Love you all. Thanks for being a part of this. I really appreciate it. Couldn't do it without you. Talk to you later.